Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues and friends. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this UNDP side event at the 56th UN Statistical Commission. My name is Yanchun Zhang. I'm UNDP's Chief Statistician working at UNDP's Human Development Report Office. Today, we will explore how UNDP's Human Development Indices have continuously evolved, reshaping the way we assess progress beyond traditional economic measures. This discussion aligns with the broader UN's Beyond GDP initiative, which challenge us to rethink how we define success and progress in the 21st century. We will also delve into the latest human development reports and innovative data tools that are shaping policy decisions worldwide. Since 2011, UNDP's Human Development Report Office has been hosting these side events as part of an ongoing consultation with the global statistical community. Your expertise and insights are valuable in refining and advancing these measures. Without further ado, it's my honor to invite the Director of UNDP's Human Development Report Office, Pedro Conceição, to open today's session. Pedro, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yanchun, and thank you to all the colleagues joining us today. You'll hear a lot about the work that we're doing in our office. But most importantly, as Yanchun mentioned, we want to hear from you, your advice, your guidance, your suggestions on how we can improve our indices, our metrics of human development, because as you will see, this is a never evolving process, and we are always looking forward to having suggestions on how we can improve our metrics. So Yanchun mentioned that a lot of what animates our work is to try to have a sense of how we can account for progress in human development, and that is part of this notion of going beyond GDP. So one way of giving some structure to the work that we do in our office is to explain how we try to go beyond GDP in three ways. First, by going beyond income and to try to have an assessment of broader metrics of well-being. So that's what has inspired us to proposed many years ago the Human Development Index, more recently the Multidimensional Poverty Index, and other metrics that try to capture a broader understanding not only of well-being actually, but also agency, human agency. So that's, I guess, the first strand of work that animates much of our work, how we go beyond GDP by going beyond income. A second strand of work has to do with going beyond averages. GDP is an indicator that gives us an average of the amount of goods and services produced by an economy every year. But it's important to explore not only how this aggregate measure is distributed across the population, but also look at other inequalities that have expression, for instance, when it comes to gender inequalities or other horizontal inequalities. So this notion of going beyond income, beyond averages, is sort of the second strand of work that animates much of our work. And then third, the final, is to go beyond today. Again, GDP gives us the flow of the goods and services produced by an economy in a year, but it's not something that we can leave to future generations. So it's not a very good metric to enable us to capture notions of sustainability, for instance. So it's important to go beyond today, and you'll see in the course of the webinar many ways in which we're trying to do this. One corresponds to try to project what are the prospects for human development and the different scenarios for greenhouse gas emissions and the evolution of climate change, how that is likely to shape prospects for human development. So with this, I hope that it gives you a bit of a sense of the structure of the kind of work that we have done and continue to pursue. And as I said, looking forward to your comments, suggestions on how we can improve what we are doing already, and perhaps some gaps, some blind spots that we currently have that we may need to consider. So again, looking forward to the discussion, to your comments. Thank you very much for joining, and back to you, Yan-Chun.
Thank you very much, Pedro. I will share my screen to bring the presentation. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, Yan-Chun.
Can you see the presentation, the full presentation, or you're seeing the one with the notes window?
Yeah, it's a presenter mode.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Start to
Colleagues,
present.
friends.
So we see the notes.
Okay, let me
Switch.
switch to the other one. You see the full presentation now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So colleagues, friends, today we have 1.5 hours up to 9:30 New York time. We have 3 presentations. First, I will provide overview of UNDP's human development indices and highlighting how they are aligned with Beyond GDP initiative. Next, my colleague Herberto Tapia, head of HDRO's research team, will present key findings from the Human Development Report 23-24, published March last year. He will also offer a sneak peek into our upcoming Human Development Report 2025. Finally, my colleague Admir Rahik, head of HDRO's Digital Data and Launch Management team, will showcase some of the latest innovative data tools developed by our office, designed to enhance accessibility and usability for policymakers and researchers. Throughout the presentations, we encourage you to submit your questions via the Q&A window. Our team will be responding in real time. After the presentations, we look forward to engaging an open discussion with you, our valued participants from the global statistical community. With that, let's begin today's conversation. So when I present UNDP's Human Development Index and other expanded human development indices, I always like to say human development indices are not standalone statistical products. They are integrated part of our human development reports. Since 1990, UNDP started publishing human development report. By now, we have 30 reports out there. Then throughout this journey, we have been expanding our human development indices as well. The latest report, 23-24, we are looking at the new ways to look at cooperation in a polarized world. Then today, as mentioned by Pedro, we are going to link UNDP's human development indices to the broader Beyond GDP initiative. So now let me walk you through how UNDP's human development indices align with this initiative, then how our 3 Beyond framework provides a roadmap for measuring progress in a more holistic way. Since its inception, in 1990, the Human Development Index has reshaped global discussions on development, shifting the focus from GDP alone to a broader measure that captures what truly matters: people's freedoms, capabilities, agencies, and well-being. The 2019 Human Development Report recognized both progress and challenges, such as inequalities, are multidimensional and called for an expanded perspective that goes beyond income, beyond averages, beyond today. That's what's shown on this slide. The 3 Beyonds framework contributes to the ongoing Beyond GDP discussion by offering a comprehensive, inclusive, and forward-looking approach to measuring human progress. So I will go to 3 of these beyonds very briefly. Beyond income. For decades, GDP has been the dominant measure of progress, but it fails to capture critical aspects of well-being. The UNDP advocates for a broader perspective, emphasizing health, education, longevity, nutrition, etc. All this is essential for expanding human freedoms. Then the HDI, Human Development Index, probably the most famous one, and Multidimensional Poverty Index are such indices providing a more accurate picture of human well-being. But as Pedro mentioned, we are not only paying attention to well-being achievements. Agency is also important. Agency is your ability to hold values and make commitments beyond own well-being. It is important. So we developed indices such as Gender Inequality Index to help identify structural barriers that prevent people from reaching their full potential. Beyond average. National average often hide significant inequalities across people, across groups. By examining disparities within societies, we gain a more nuanced understanding of economic and social imbalances. The examples here include our Inequality Adjust HDI, which helps uncover these gaps, ensuring no one is behind. Additionally, in our 2021 Multidimensional Poverty Index report, we also look at how poverty varies among different ethnic groups, highlighting the need for targeted policy interventions. The third beyond today, development must also consider the well-being of future generations. This requires assessing assets and wealth, including natural capital, human capital, knowledge systems, to understand what we are leaving behind. We also use indices such as our Planetary Pressures Adjusted HDI to ensure human development progress without placing unsustainable pressure on the planet. So in conclusion, the 3 Beyonds framework equip us with a framework to measure progress in a way that is holistic, equitable, and sustainable. By integrating these insights into policies, we can build a future where human development thrives while respecting planetary well-being as well. So I'm going to use today's time to quickly go through the indices, but also give you a bit of background. For those of you who are familiar with the UN's Beyond GDP initiative, there are 2 documents might be worthy to mention. One is the Secretary General's Our Common Agenda Policy Brief 4, published in May 2023. In this brief, he suggests us to move beyond GDP to measure what we truly value, reconsider what we mean by progress, and evaluate how to distribute resources for real changes. Then following this policy brief publication and also the discussions among member states, then last year during the General Assembly, we have the Pact of Future, including Action 53, in particular mentioning the need to go beyond GDP. So Action 3 in the Pact for the Future document says we will develop a framework on measures of progress on sustainable development to complement and go beyond GDP. In particular, in item A of Action 53, the Secretary General will set up a high-level expert group to develop recommendations for a limited number of country-owned and universally applicable indicators going beyond GDP. So we hope UNDP's Human Development Indices will make a contribution to this endeavor. So before talking about human development indices, just one slide to give you a brief background of human development approach. So human development approach is adopted in all our reports in the development of all our indices. This approach was proposed by the founding director of the office, Mahbub El-Haq, and informed by work on welfare, economics, and social choice by Professor Amartya Sen. Then Sen traces origins of human development ideas back to Aristotle. So wealth alone is not what we are seeking, for it is merely useful and for the sake of something else. Then the goal of development, according to the human development approach, is about expanding individuals' freedoms, ensuring everyone has the capabilities to lead a life you value and have reasons to value. Then the first human development index was published in 1990, when the first report was published. Then over the years, it has gone through some changes, but essentially it's a very simple composite index. It's a multidimensional capabilities index. For now, it has 3 dimensions to capture long and healthy life, knowledge, and a decent standard of living. 4 indicators go to the calculation of our HDI. In a few minutes, I will show you how HDI is constructed. But over the last 30 years, we have been also expanding the family of human development indices by capturing other dimensions not incorporated in the original HDI. So we have developed gender indices, for example, Gender Development Index and Gender Inequality Index, but also Inequality Adjusted HDI, Planetary Pressures Adjusted HDI, as well as Multidimensional Poverty Index. So these 5 composite indices are regularly updated and refreshed, both in our annual human development reports and also online. We do not use data directly from the countries when calculating our human development indices. We use the data from those agencies with the mandate to collect data, harmonize data, and publish data. So take HDI, for example, we take life expectancy and birth data from Population Division of DESA. We downloaded 2 education indicator data from UNESCO Institute for Statistics. For standard of living indicator, gross national income per capita in PPP terms, we use official data from World Bank, UNDESA, as well as IMF. In our report, as well as online, you can find all the supplementary material, including the detailed technical note, explaining how we construct and calculate each of these 6 composite indices. Take HDI, for example. Here, we have the 2-step process. First, we use the data directly from the UN agencies, then we standardize them to a value between 0 and 1 using the goalpost explicitly set in our methodology note. Then when we have each of these component indicator index calculated, we average 2 education indicators to get the education dimension index, along with the other 2 dimensions. Then we calculate the human development index using the geometric mean. So online, we have the country pages for 195 countries and territories covered in our report, in our statistical ALEX tables. So here, just an example of Nigeria, you can see in the last year's report, in the latest report is 2022 HDI value is calculated as 0.548. It's below the 0.550 threshold to go to the next category. So Nigeria remains a low human development country, but you can also see the time series we calculate for the for the country over time, the country has made significant progress. So every year, we refresh the full-time series from 1990 because the data is refreshed and revised by the sourcing agencies. Then sometimes we also update our methodology. So every year, when you open our human development report, you will see the refreshed full-time series of all our human development indices. Then the main results of the refreshed time series are also presented in the main chapters of the reports. In a few minutes, when my colleague Heriberto presented 23-24 reports, you will see the key findings there. Before I go to the other indices, I'd like to spend a minute talking about the consultation process because it's very, very important for us. It helps strengthen the transparency of the process we produce our human development indices, even though we don't take data directly from the countries, but we do have a very close engagement with official statistical community. So every year, when we start preparing our annual reports, we will send a letter to all the national statistics offices around the world to inform them the calendar for our report publication and indices calculation. Then we also share where we are going to source these key indicators data. Then we also remind countries to bring any discrepancies to the attention of the source agencies. Our office also periodically report to the UN Statistical Commission on Human Development Indices. Then this year, 2025, we are going to report. We already submitted the report, and it is one of the items of this year's Status Commission agenda. Then the second route is through consultations, workshops, and meetings. This side event to the UN Statistical Commission is one thing we do, but we also periodically organize regional thematic consultations as well as measurement conferences with a very focused theme. Then the last action we take is we have been relying on our statistical advisory panel composed of chief statisticians from some member states and also from international agencies we source data from. So we work very closely to monitor and to trying to improve the data going to the construction of human development indices. So the rest of the presentation will be rather quick because all this material, as I said, are available online. So please check out. Then my colleagues can also put the links to these indices in the chat box for you to click. So the next index I'd like to mention briefly is our multidimensional poverty index. Then this complements monetary-based poverty measures. Then the construction of MPI is very similar to HDI. So it is also a capabilities index, but instead of measuring the progress as HDI is doing, MPI is measuring the deprivations in capabilities, 3 dimensions, but we are looking at 10 indicators. All these 10 indicators come from the same household surveys. Then each dimension takes the equal weight of a third. I only want to say one thing about MPI, which is the difference between global MPI, which is the multidimensional poverty index report and the numbers we publish jointly with Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative every year. So that's the global MPI. But individual countries also started working on their national MPI. These are related, but not exactly the same. So we often receive questions on how to read these two different numbers. So here, this slide just gives you a very brief ideas how they are different. So global MPI, we use standard computational methodology shown on the last slide, 3 dimensions, 10 indicators. Then data is sourced from national representative household surveys like DHS mix and national surveys. Then global MPI is internationally comparable. For now, we publish global MPI numbers for the developing countries only, but these numbers are comparable. So national MPI, on the other hand, is in the hands of national governments. So household deprivations are tailored to specific country needs. You can define your national MPI and you can decide the dimensions, indicators going to the calculation of national MPI. Then because of these different sets of indicators, weights, and cutoffs you are using, so the national MPI numbers are not comparable across countries. You can use national MPI to monitor your national progress in terms of multidimensional poverty reduction. Then the process involves both technical exercise and political process. Then it also requires national statistic capacity to be ready. So we know there are a lot of interest on national MPI. Then UNDP also has another bureau to provide some support on this initiative. Now I'm going to present 2 inequality HDI. One is the IHDI. This index is trying to capture a very important development challenge, which is inequality. IHDI is to capture the intergenerational inequality. Then the other inequality HDI, planetary pressures adjusted HDI, is aiming to address the intragenerational inequality. So IHDI is computed as a geometric mean of inequality adjusted dimensions of indices. So for each of the dimension, we calculate the inequality adjusted index. Then again, we use the geometric mean to calculate the final index. Last year, when we published the 23-24 report, we were able to calculate IHDI for 165 countries and territories. The other 30+ countries we can't because of the data limitations. Then here you can see the overall loss due to intergenerational inequality. Here you can see that is most pronounced for sub-Saharan Africa regions, almost 34% because of inequality. Then OECD group of countries, that loss is 11%. Then the PHDI was first introduced in our 2020 Human Development Report. So in that report, we explore how planetary pressures creates challenges, but also opens new opportunities for human development. Then planetary pressures adjusted HDI is constructed similar to inequality adjusted HDI. Then the 2 indicators here we are using to adjust for adjustment. One is the carbon dioxide emissions. The other is the material footprint. We use these 2 indicators to construct adjustment factor. Then we calculate the discounted HDI due to planetary pressures. Now here you can see when you graph HDI and the PHDI, then you see all the countries PHDI is below their HDI because they suffer loss due to planetary pressures, more big or small extent. Then here, if you see the difference between PHDI and HDI, then you can see OECD group countries actually has the biggest difference from HDI value. But our key message here is we try to encourage countries to achieve and sustain very high levels of human development without placing undue pressure on the planet. The last set of indices I'm going to talk about today are our gender indices. I leave them to the last, not because they're not important, it's opposite. Gender indices are the highest demanded indices from our users. So currently we are publishing Gender Development Index and Gender Inequality Index in our report, but separately we also publish Gender Social Norms Index. Publish them online as well as in prints. So Gender Development Index is a very easy to understand. Gender Index is a ratio. It's a ratio of female HDI and male HDI. So it aims to measure disparities in HDI by gender. So the constructions of the GDI is identical to the construction of the HDI. The only here, the challenge for us constructing the GDI is to come up with the gender-specific sex disaggregated data to calculate GDI. Then last year, we calculate GDI for 182 countries. GRI, on the other hand, is to measure gender inequalities in empowerment. Then if you look at the dimensions here, we are looking at reproductive health, we are looking at women's empowerment, we also look at the labor market participation rate. So GRI has been widely used in academia and also by policymakers. Last year, we published GRI for 166 countries. Gender Social Norms Index also attracted a lot of attention since it was first featured in our 2019 Human Rights Report, then followed by 2 individual editions. So this gender index look at social norms. So we are looking at 7 indicators from 4 dimensions to construct this Gender Social Norms Index. Then we published the 2nd edition in 2023. Then using the data from World Value Surveys, then we see for the last decade, there's little progress made in terms of reducing gender social norms bias worldwide. Also, we are encouraged to experiment new gender indices because the additional dimensions our users demand us to look into, but also because the increasing availability of some gender-related data. So in 2024, we also published this experimental twin indices on women's empowerment and gender equality jointly with Young Women. This twin indices propose to look at Women's Empowerment Index and Global Gender Parity Index together. Now, our argument is by looking at one of them, you will get incomplete picture of women's status. You need to look at them both together. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about gender indices, also because in the coming month, we are going to have a very exciting event organized during the CSW. So we are in partnership with World Bank Equal Measures 2030 and UCLA's World Policy and Analysis Center to organize a side event during the CSW. We are going to talk about UNDP's gender indices, that our partners will talk about their own gender indices. The idea is to have a session with the users, with the advocates of gender data and statistics to see what insights and inspiration we can get from gender data. This year is the 30th anniversary of Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Also, it's the 30-year anniversary of our Human Rights Report 1995 on gender. So this is a very special year for UNDP, for our office as well, to take another look at how gender data and stats has have been evolving over time. So please sign up for this event. This is a hybrid. You can join us in New York or join virtually. Thank you very much. This is my presentation today. Now, I will give the floor to my colleague, Harry. Harry, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yanchun. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm going to be sharing some slides to tell you about the themes of the report, what we have done recently, and also our plans for the coming year. So I hope you can see my slides. Very good. So what I'm gonna give you is a sense of the journey of the Human Development Reports, starting with some of the analysis that we conducted just a few years ago, where we identified that the world is changing rapidly. We all know it, and but trying to understand certain elements that were particularly important in defining the change. So one of them had to do with the widespread and intensifying polarization, and the other had to do with the social changes that were led by transformations in the space of technology, including artificial intelligence, and the other was the planetary change that we sometimes refer as the Anthropocene. So how humans are changing in a dramatic way the conditions of the planet. And we decided to write a report on each of these elements. So last year, we presented a report on polarization. Now we're working on a report on artificial intelligence that it will be released in a few months. And for 2026, we expect to produce a report linking human development and nature. So this is just to give you a perspective of our work. So I'm gonna now tell you a little bit about the results of the report that we published last year on polarization, and some ideas of what we are going to be publishing in just few months on human development and artificial intelligence. So the report in 2023, 2024 was about breaking the gridlock. So reimagine cooperation in a polarized world. So something important also to link with the presentation that Yanchun just gave us is that when we look at development through the lens of the Human Development Index, in the recent period, we see a lot of action, unprecedented action, that somehow reflects the mismanagement of interdependence, the case of the pandemic, and how the level of the Human Development Index departed from the previous trend. However, there is something that we cannot ignore, and which is the fact that the Human Development Index, and this was the projection that was presented last year, is now at its highest level on record. So there are objective reasons to think that we are doing well. However, we all know that there are many things that are becoming very problematic. So we have high and growing inequalities. We have a planet that is being destabilized by our own pressures. We have the sense of human insecurity that we observe in people. We have increasing polarization, growing in more than 2/3 of the countries around the world. We have increasing conflicts. So somehow we have development, but we also have new problems that are intensifying. So this is what we sometimes refer to as the blind spots or paradoxes. And the point is that we are not being able to manage those paradoxes, that all of them are rooted in human action in a proper way. So this is what we in turn reflect as the gridlock. So we seem to be paralyzed, we seem to be divided precisely when it is more necessary that we come together in order to address some of the challenges that, of course, include what is going on with artificial intelligence. In short, there is a notorious lack of cooperation, and this is one of the key messages of this report. So in the decision making, also we observe that our societies are moving in a very interesting and dangerous trajectory. So this chart shows what we in the report call the democracy paradox. Because on the one hand, and this is the horizontal axis, we show the support of people to the value of democracy. And this is very high. So people remain highly committed to the ideal of democracy. Around 90% of the global population, based on this data, are supporting the ideal of democracy. But at the same time, we observe that over the years, the support towards leaders that might undermine democracy is going up. And this is what is measured in the vertical axis. And you can see how there is this evolution in the upward direction. So this is problematic because also this reflects something that doesn't have to do with a particular leader in a particular country, which is often what we hear in the news. It has to do with the preferences of people. In some cases, there is no such leader in the ballot, but people, according to the survey data, are still longing for them. So this is a problem that is reflecting that today we are not being able to address the question. We're not being able to break the gridlock, and therefore people are looking for different options. So one way in which we can understand this dynamic is what is going on with agency. So from the perspective of human development, for us, it's important what is happening with the well-being of people, but also with the agency of people. Yanshun already mentioned this. So it's the ability of people of making decision commitments based on their own values. One way of understanding agency is the ability of people of getting control of their own lives. And what's happening here? Around 50% of the global population feel they don't have high control over their lives. So this is a very important agency gap. It's a problem. And when it comes to another dimension of agency, so how we make decisions, we have that around 70% of people globally feel that they have very little influence in the decision of the governments. So this is, I think, an emerging issue, an emerging problem, and therefore, in this report, we try to present certain policy options. So first, we need to bring the idea of agency to the forefront of policies to try to narrow these agency gaps, enhancing people's voices in deliberation, and also addressing some of the factors that are influencing agency. One of them, very important, is the level of human security or human insecurity, and also what is going on with social norms. Social norm is, for instance, in the case of gender social norm, is something that is in the way of the agency of women. Second, it's very important to build mechanisms for action. And in particular, to establish a new generation of global public goods that we need for the 21st century. So here we are talking about public goods to address the Anthropocene challenges, planetary public goods, digital public goods, etc. Also, we discuss how this can be done through financing mechanism, creating a third track of international financing. And third, we need to work more in trying to dial back the temperature in our societies, in trying to reduce polarization. So there are new governance approaches, and in the report, we provide certain examples. So this is just to give you an idea, but what is core here is that when we talk about political polarization, we often think that this is something that has to do only with politics. But here in this report, we emphasize that this is a very important human development agenda. Good, so I'm gonna now give you a sense of what we are planning for the report that we are about to publish in a few months about the human development and artificial intelligence. As I mentioned, this was the other one of the 3 areas that we are defining as part of the journey. In this report, it's not a report about artificial intelligence, right? There are many other reports. We want to write a report that is about people and society in this context. And something that is very critical is to define whether artificial intelligence represents just another iteration in the progress in the innovations, or if there is something different here. And our conclusion is that this is different. It's not just another wave of innovation. And one of the reasons has to do with the nature of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is not just a tool like other innovations that were, in general, very predictable, transparent, and passive, something that we use and we know what the results are going to be. In the case of artificial intelligence, we have something that has some level of agenticity. This is the term that we are using, which means that it's very unpredictable, opaque, dynamic, and also it's active. It can react autonomously. So this is something that it's changing things in a very different way, in particular in what is happening with our societies. So our societies evolve based on the way we generate, for instance, ideas, in the way we transmit these ideas, and in the way that we select ideas that will stay. And these technologies are acting in these 3 areas. Some of them are generating new ideas, they are mediating the transmission of ideas, and also they are determining what counts, what doesn't count. So this is changing the social fabric in a way that it's completely unprecedented. Second point is that this is already affecting people in dramatic way. And in the report, we present the evidence in how this is taking place, taking a life stage approach, identifying, for instance, what is happening with young children, how their brains development is being affected by the exposures of some of these activities. What is happening then when they are going to school, how the interaction with these tools affect the learning, what's happening when they are teenagers, what's happening with the adult life, and then with other people. So all of this is already very impactful and very rich, and the report put a lot of emphasis in understanding these different dimensions in a nuanced way. Just let me give you an example. We have a big problem with our young people. So it used to be that our young people were statistically one of the groups that show higher levels of happiness and lower levels of despair, anxiety. This is what it showed in this chart that gives us an idea of the level of despair, anxiety for different age groups. And you can see how the level of despair in the case of two countries, the UK and the US, is growing very significantly in the case of younger populations. So this is just one example. And this is my last slide, just to close. The report also tries to give an idea of how we can address this new context of change, where there is interaction between people and machines in a completely new way. First, how important narratives are in order to define the outcome. Just to give you one example, there are many things here. Now, our society seem to be racing to build artificial general intelligence. This means we are racing to build machines that are better than humans. This is the underlying narrative that is driving our innovation. So we are claiming we need to break this narrative and instead try to race to build machines, artificial intelligence, that can complement humans. Because this is actually what we want. We want support in the development of human capabilities. A second point, we have here very important choices to make, because there are changes that are relevant, that are super relevant. So we have, and these are coming from our society, we have choices, but then who makes the choices? So this becomes ultimately an issue of power. And now we have certain actors that are having too much power to decide the technology, the implication of the technology, but also the implication of the energy that is used for these technologies to be power, etc. Also, we have the intermediation of power through democratic system, that now it's becoming more and more difficult, in part related to the issue of polarization because of problems of misinformation, problems of political polarization. So this is something very important. And third, we also need to try to build better institutions for this new environment that put a lot of emphasis on agency. But in order to do this, we need, for instance, to understand what are the capabilities that we need in order to exercise our agency in this context, in education, in health. Also, we need to understand how we can promote the type of innovation that works for people. And also we need to build what we are starting to call a complementary economy. So that's in a nutshell some of the elements that we are working on, and we look forward to present this report to you and hear your reactions. Over to you, Yanchun.
Thank you so much, Harry. Colleagues, you probably can tell by now we like to use beyond a lot. That's because we are pushing the frontier of thinking. While my colleague Admir is making his presentation available, I like to also answer a couple questions in the Q&A or about the presentations, whether we are going to share the presentations. The answer is yes, we will make our presentations as well as the recording available. Our current idea is to share them on the UNSC's website, because this is a side event to the UN Statistics Commission session this year. So we will work with Statistics Division colleagues to upload this material for interested colleagues. Then meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can reach out to my colleague Prechi. She will share her email address in the chat box. So you can reach out to her for additional links, websites, material you are interested. Now, Admir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chun, and thank you, Heriberto, for a very rich discussion so far. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'll share my screen, and I hope you'll be able to see it. Let me just see here. Can you see the slideshow? Excellent. Excellent. So thanks everyone again. So I'll cover here, go over HDRO's innovative data initiatives. Again, as Yanchun mentioned, we like to use Beyond a lot, so it's on this title slide as well. And I'll just thread into what Pedro introduced on Beyond Income Averages in today and how these initiatives connect to them. And also what Yanchun mentioned with our traditional statistical indices and other data work. So one of the initiatives that we started in 2021-22 is called Human Climate Horizons, and resulted in a Human Climate Horizons data platform, which is a joint effort between HDRO and Climate Impact Lab, which is a consortium of several universities that that do research on impacts of climate change in different ways. And so this research fits into this beyond income, beyond averages, and beyond today framework, and these innovative generational measurements of human development. Human Climate Horizons provides people-centered measures on how living in Anthropocene, in this age where human dominate the planet and do impact the way our climate is evolving, impacts on our health, impacts on our well-being, impacts on how we live. Also, beyond averages, this initiative provides highly disaggregated, hyper-local estimates of impacts of climate change on people. And beyond today, provides projections of impacts of climate change under different policy scenarios and different mission scenarios. Here are some additional features and some more details about it. First, the platform itself has a worldwide coverage, covers all countries and territories worldwide. Provides over 24 subnational regions, 24,000, pardon, subnational regions, which is highly granular. So for every country and territory, we have a quite granular level of information available. It provides 3 time horizons over the entire 21st century and 3 emission scenarios, which underscore our collective policy choices. The platform also has standardized geographies, and so we can layer different impacts one on top of each other, which provides us more granular picture for each location of what type of impacts those locations may be facing in the future. And importantly, each data set is backed up by peer-reviewed methodology that's published in leading journals. All hazard data that is available on the platform, which I'll go over, is coming straight from IPCC. One of the important features is that this platform is fully open digital public good, which means everyone can access it from anywhere in the world and see what type of impacts they may be facing, their locations, and their countries and their regions. And very importantly, the platform allows multidimensional assessment of climate risks, because as we all know, the impacts of climate change are different in different parts of the planet. We know everyone's going to be impacted, but again, we don't have enough clarity in which way, in which intensity. And with Human Climate Horizons, we can see how in different regions, different locations, people are going to get impacted, and we can layer them up again, and we can see which of the climate impacts maybe face different locations and how. Due to these kind of key features, this platform and this initiative expands our understanding of climate change and on human development and human security, and shows us again what kind of futures we may have depending on a scenario of 1.8 or 2 Celsius increase of temperature, 2.7 or higher temperature increase. It can equip policymakers with means to understand these global challenges and the potential costs, and help them gather efforts around mitigation strategies at all levels. And it enhances human agency because it allows everyone, like I said, to access information in one place, and empowers individuals and communities to play a role in shaping our collective path forward. Now, digging deeper and looking into indicators that are already available and some of them that are upcoming. In 2022, as I mentioned, we started this initiative with the temperature change hazard. So we wanted to see how changing temperature is going to impact our health, impact on mortality, how it may impact our ability to work with labor productivity, and how may impact changes in energy use, where different types of fuels or different types of energy may be increasing or decreasing. After that, we released the data on sea level rise and its impacts on people that live in coastal regions. Over 5,000 coastal regions are available. We also wanted to see how much of those regions may be impacted by climate change and may be permanently inundated by expanding floodplains. And we want to see size of those areas that may be affected. This year, we're working with researchers on another hazard and impact of climate change on agriculture and food security, including how temperature changes and trends and how rainfall patterns may impact yields of some of the key crops. And one of the impact indicators that we are going to provide this year is percent of change in annual yields in production of some of the staple crops. So we have 6 crops included, including cassava, corn, rice, soy, sorghum, and wheat. And what we already see from some preliminary results is that there are going to be some significant changes in terms of production of crops and yields in different countries. And we'll see how those changes may impact human development and people worldwide. This is just a general. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this slide, but I wanted to show it because it's important to have more information about data on human climate horizons, and all information is available on the website itself. So it's more or less a standard big data analytics process where scientists look through terabytes of historical weather, social and population economic data. Then using various tools, they look into empirical evidence of how climatic conditions in the past, including warm summers or rainfalls, affect people and communities, harm human health, change economic activity and labor productivity. And then they use these estimates of past climate impacts to project and simulate how these impacts are set to grow over time, with adjustments, of course, for population and changes in income and economics and future greenhouse gas emissions. I'll go over some examples. First, looking at temperature change, there are several indicators that I described earlier. As we already know, and many places are facing every day and every year, we see that temperatures are increasing around the world, and Human Climate Horizons shows how these patterns of future warming are projected to change decade to decade. And first indicator that I'm going to show here is the mortality impact, which is defined as projected additional deaths due to future climate change per 100,000 people. And on aggregate, what we saw when we went through these data is that impacts of climate change will intensify inequalities across the world. When we look at the regional averages, we see that especially developing regions may face significant increase in death rates due to increasing temperatures, while developed regions may face less. So that means that the regions that are already bearing the brunt of impacts of climate change may see even more difficulties as this century evolves, and which will lead to significant explosion in inequalities over the century. And with this platform, we can go into very detailed, like I said, assessment for different countries and different regions. And here I'll show a country example of Pakistan. This map shows the differences in mortality rates in Pakistan. This scenario is for mid-century under current moderate emission scenario RCP 4.5. And what we see with these colors of dark orange and light faded purple is that in many countries, people are going to face different realities, even in small areas. And dark orange colors means that there's going to be a significant increase in mortality, while purple or faded colors means there may not be change or maybe even decrease in mortality. And if you look at, for instance, here, I zoomed in on city of Islamabad. What we see over the century, by mid-century, projection is about 28 additional deaths, and towards the end of the century, the projection is about 47 additional deaths due to climate change, which is again significant. If you compare that to some of the leading causes of death in entire country of Pakistan, we see that, for instance, stroke deaths contribute to about 48 people per 100,000 population, which is similar to projected impacts of temperature increase on mortality, and increases it's actually higher than some of the other leading causes of deaths in the country. If you look at the productivity, the labor productivity impact, which is a change in annual hours worked per worker in high and low risk sectors, again, in country like Pakistan, we can see different realities within the country. These different shaded colors, from green to this faded maroon color, we can see that in some parts of the country, there's going to be significant impact on people's ability to work. As temperatures increase, people working, especially in high-risk sector, in agriculture or in construction, may not be able to be as productive or may not be able to work as much as they do now. And on average, in Pakistan, the reduction in productive hours is about 20.1 hours, which means each worker is projected to lose about half a working week by mid-century under current emission trajectory. If you zoom in into some of the city, like I said, have here, we can see that in Faisalabad in Pakistan, that number is about 25 hours, and then it's projected to increase to about 38.5. You can see that on this line on the right side, 38.5 hours towards the end of the century, which means each worker in this city is projected to lose about one full week of productive work, which again, we can see how that can impact, first of all, those people, their families, their communities, but also the entire country in terms of GDP and growth. Now, looking at sea level rise impacts, and I have, I think, a couple of more slides on this. Again, the premise here is that as sea levels rise around the world, this gives a higher starting point to storm surges and that cause hurricanes and cyclones, and they push water further inland. And if you look at some of the impacts of sea level rise, one of the indicators is a percentage of region population that live in floodplains to be permanently flooded by rising seas, again, relative to futures without climate change. And what we see here, when we look at Vietnam, for instance, we see difference in color. Again, these faded yellow and faded orange all the way to dark brown color. The faded color means their projection is less impact on population. However, we see in many parts of the country that projections are that the sea level rise, it may impact a significant portion of population. And if we zoom in on city of Can Tho in Vietnam, we see that by mid-century, the projection is under current emission scenario, about 8.6% of population is projected to be impacted. Towards the end of the century, that number rises to close to 18%, which again is significant because if 8.5 or 18% of population in the city is impacted, means that can have a significant impact on entire city infrastructure and people ability to move around in that city, and would require significant mitigation adaptation efforts in those areas. And if you look at it on aggregates, what we see on global level, and this graph shows on x-axis shows different time horizons, and these bars show different policy scenarios, emission scenarios. And what we see, for instance, from 2030 to 2090, under current emission scenario, we see that there's going to be increase in people affected of about between 14.5 million currently living in those regions to about 73 million people by close of the century. And if we put the world on path of climate action and lower emissions and cut warming to about 2 Celsius towards the end of the century, that could decrease population risk by roughly 38 million people. And this is the last slide. On this slide, what I want just to provide is some additional information on how users can access these data. And all of this information is going to be available on Human Climate Horizon's website and HDRO website. We are currently working on new geocoded data API, and this new system will come with a structured database, with API, with web interface, and with data exploration tool, which will allow everyone not only to explore these countries and impacts on the platform itself, but download selected databases or entire database, or actually database for a country or database for a region, and explore those data and combine them with other data. And this new systems also include some other metrics that HDRO produces that again are highly disaggregated and have many data points. And that is in addition to what Yan-Chung presented earlier, which is our Human Development Data Center, which includes country and territory insights and pages for all individual composite indices, as well as ability to download traditional statistics via API and data exploration tool. I'll stop here, Yan-Chung. Thank you so much, and looking forward to a discussion.
Thank you, Admir. Please don't stop sharing yet, because we have 2 questions in the Q&A related to your presentation, which shows a very high interest in our Human Climate Horizon platform. So if you can maybe respond to these questions orally, that'd be great, because I think they probably are in many other audience mind as well.
Let me see. Let me just see if I can see questions.
One from Rodrigo Soares, the other from Paul Ducata.
Okay.
Actually, the first question we got a lot, right, Admir?
Yeah, Bryce, could you repeat the question, because I don't see them? Let me just see.
I can read to you, Admir.
Okay, thank you.
So Rodrigo asked, I didn't quite get how developed countries would have a lower death rate with increasing average temperature. Would you mind clarifying? Thanks.
Well, it comes with location. It's because the impacts of climate change, again, and this is, I think, this graph. The regions that are currently facing higher temperatures are projected to face even higher temperatures in the future. So if you look at developed regions, for instance, countries like Sweden, Norway, and entire Nordics region, for instance, they're on higher up north. And what happens there as temperature increases means that we are going to have more days, more warmer days and less colder days. And currently, what models also estimate is that's due to extremely low temperatures, which in many instances can be higher than that's due to very high temperatures. So when we have when those temperatures increase, some of the death rates, for instance, in Nordics are going to decrease. And that's why we have this phenomena where we show on these maps that in some parts of the world, actually death rates are going to decrease due to higher temperature. Of course, that's rare, and that happens in regions that are higher up north. But again, that's where most of these developed countries are. While if we see countries, for instance, in Africa or in Middle East or in South Asia, again, these are parts of the world that are already facing higher temperatures, and again, projections show that those temperatures are going to increase significantly, and thus far, those developing regions are going to face higher death rates.
Thank you, Admir. There are another question from Paul Ducata. The question is, could you share how those inferences were made, and how to confirm, how could you confirm they are accurate in all countries all over the world?
Well, again, in this case, I would suggest that looking at methodology papers, all these projections come with level of precision. And what I would suggest here is looking at methodologies and understanding really in detail how the impact indicators are computed and what type of error rate they come with, right? What we know is these are some of the best available data currently, and They are peer-reviewed, fully peer-reviewed and published in journals, and they come through significant level of scrutiny and check of these data. But again, we continuously work to update these models. And for instance, temperature data is following IPCC's AR5 modeling approach, and currently we are working on updating to AR6, which again going to improve this data as we go. They are going to improve, but again, in comparison between countries, these are quite solid projections, and we expect again with each data update to have more precision, and we can also see how these models will change between different data releases.
Thank you very much, Admir. Maybe it's also a good time for me to share the screen and show you our website. Then I see another policy-related question. What could be immediate steps Pakistan can take in order to mitigate environmental effects and improve productivity? Yes, that's the policy question. That's exactly what we want our research, our stats work will stimulate such policy questions. Here, we are writing reports and computing indices. We may not have the immediate answers to your immediate question, but we would like to see more of these questions to be available. Before we go, as I said, I'd like to share my screen so I can show you our website. So I think it can be very helpful. Every year when we organize this session, can you see my screen?
Yes, Yanchun.
Yes, thank you. So every year when we have this side event to the Statistical Commission session, I always feel it's like a conversation with a group of colleagues interested in human development data and stats in our own living room. So it's a community really, but it's also the opportunity for us to share as much as we can. Now our website is the place we invite you to come and take a look, because all what we presented and a lot more we haven't got chance to be able to present to you today are available on our website. So this is our website, very simple, hdrundp.org. Now here we have the reports and publications page. Here you can see our latest report, Human Development 23-24. Here we have the reports. We have the reports in English, Spanish, and French. We also have the overviews and snapshots in other languages. Then we also have the data center. This is what I want to show you. Admir showed you a little part of it. So here I want to show you what you can find here. We have HDI as our signature human development indices, but we also have the country insights. This is the page a lot of users find very, very helpful. So if you come here, you can see out of 195 countries and territories covered in our report, we managed to calculate HDI for 193 countries and territories. They are placed here. You can change how the list looks like. So now we sort the list alphabetically. Then if we click Afghanistan, then you can see the Afghanistan country insights page. So here we have the basic data and human development indices information for the country. So we have the Human Development Index, refreshed series. Then we have other indices as well. Then here you can also do a comparison. So by default, we have the world average and the country, but you can also add country here, neighboring countries or comparable countries in conflicts. You can add here to see how their HDI has been evolving. Then you can see our gender indices here, the inequality indices here, and we also have the gender social norms index here, multidimensional poverty index here. And one page I'd like to bring to your attention is this explore and download data documentation and downloads page, because here you can find the technical notes. So these technical notes explain in details how we compute human development index, and also, so here we have the data links. So here you will have the data links to all the tables in our reports. Then we also have the metadata here, where you can download all the indices for all the 195 countries and territories, but also the component indicator data. Then here we have the API. We have an Excel tool. So this is Excel tool to help you understand the calculation process. Then we have the updated HDR technical notes. So the latest technical notes is here, but we also include the previous reports technical notes on our human development indices. We have the separate section on statistical references. Then we also have the list of countries included in our developing regions, because when we calculate aggregates, it's very important to be clear about what categorization or definition you are using. Then we also have the principles governing international statistical activities. So for this community of national statistics officers and researchers working on data stats, we think this page is extremely helpful and useful to you. Then now back to human climate horizons. That's what ATMIA just presented. It's one of the most recent data innovations products we bring out. Then this is in collaboration with Human Climate Lab. Then a lot of background papers are published in referee journals, as Ademir mentioned. Then this website has the technical background papers, and as well as references you can refer to. So we have the link to Climate Impact Lab as well as our own office. So I will stop sharing now. We have a couple minutes. We already have some questions answered in the Q&A window. Then we have a couple of participants raising their hand. I will ask my colleague to allow them to take the floor. Let me see who raised the hand. Do we have raised hands? I don't see any raised hands.
You are correct, Tianchun. There are no raised hands right now.
Okay, so if there are any attendees who would like to make a comment or ask a question, please. Yes, I see a new question pop up in the Q&A window. How can I engage in HDRO work? Absolutely, that's exactly the purpose of our side event. I always say this presentation, this 90-minute presentation is the beginning of a journey together. Then every year we organize this side event, hoping if you are coming to New York for the UN Statistical Commission session, please come to visit us. We are very close by. Then we are always making ourselves available. So to engage in HDR work, you can reach out directly to us. So I will put the STATS team email address in the chat box, so you can write to us. Or, all the profiles of our team members are online as well. Then you can also reach out to my colleague Prechi, who already shared her email in the chat box. So you can reach out to her if you want to get involved in any of the ongoing work we are doing at HDRO. So I don't see any questions. I see Paul's question, can we be precise and predict what it will be in 20 years? Having so accurate and not quality data. I agree, but we always try to make best of what we have. Even when you look at HDI, it's the index existing for more than 30 years, but still every year when we compute, when we refresh the full-time series, we have to deal with a lot of imperfect data, a lot of low quality data. So that's why working together with other international data agencies, working together with national statistics offices are extremely important. And this conversation, these exchanges are very important to us. When we want to say anything about the future, it's in particular important to have what you raised in the Q&A window in mind. Yes, there's hard to have an accurate prediction, but that doesn't prevent us from making some well-informed predictions. That's what we can do. Then, by the way, our 2026 report, which is the report after the AI report we are going to publish this year, the 2026 report, we are going to come back to planetary issues we wrote about in 2020 report, but a lot of open questions that we think extremely important for the future generations, for the beyond today discussions. So next year, we plan to come back to this topic. We are going to address the planetary justice issues, those disparities, inequalities, differences between developing countries, developed countries, then the global challenges we are facing. So we will have to deal with a lot of predictions in our next report. So we welcome all the inputs and insights from you. There's another question on gender statistics. What are sources available if we are interested to improve our existing publication and bring it to at par with current and updated indicators to be used for better decision making? We have a lot to say. Today, we are 2 minutes from the closure of the session. So I would say, please check our gender indices website. If you come to HDR website, you will see the thematic composite indices page. Then there you can find all the gender indices. Then we specify where we source the data. Then we also do our own imputation for some of the indicators. Then we can share these details with you for sure. And also welcome to our CSW event later in March. I don't see any remaining questions. So thank you so much for all the colleagues and friends joining us today. As I said, it's a recurrent event every year. We organize this session to welcome new friends, to say hi to old friends. It's an opportunity to show what we are doing, actively pursuing at HDRO in terms of data stats, but also research and innovations. So we welcome engagements throughout the year, not only during the UN Statistics Commission session. So please feel free to reach out to us. So I will officially close the session now. Thank you so much. I will see you next year. Bye-bye.